Please welcome the legendary David Duchovny. After you, sir. You have brought some great excitement to SpaceCon, I must say, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
How's it feel to be out here?
It's great. It feels great to see all of you. Thank you. I wish I could see all of you, but it is great to feel all of you.
No, it's a real pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much. You have had such a eclectic career in entertainment as an actor, writer, director, and musician. I want to know, like, when you look back, do you see a common thread connecting, all these creative outlets?
I don't know, I guess it's just I've always been looking for ways to express what I feel or what I see or what I think, and it just takes different forms at different times, I guess, is what has seemed to happen. And each form, whether it's writing novels or poetry or acting or directing or making music, they change the expression a little bit. So each time you go through it, it kind of changes you as you change it.
We have a lot of questions here. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Before we get to it, one common question I saw is, before we go backwards a little bit, like, what are some upcoming projects? What are you working on right now?
I have a show that's coming out on Amazon next month called Malice. And then, it's kind of a thriller, White Lotus-y kind of a vibe. And then I've written a script that I'll be shooting in February, which I'm not gonna say the name of it yet, but that's gonna be good. I'll act in it. I won't direct it, but I wrote the script and I'll act in it.
Well, that's exciting. We love seeing anything he does, right?
Oh, I have an album coming out those are the music people are always the loudest. Hey, don't let the music people drown you out, sci-fi fans. Come on. Let's get a healthy competition going here. An album coming out in, I believe, February, and that'll be called Prince of Pieces.
Oh, that's super exciting. What do you think when you look at this crowd, you see it here, you have fans from different parts of your output of creativity. How does that feel seeing, your music fan to your TV and film fans all under one roof?
Feels great. I mean, I'd like to take you with me everywhere I go.
We'll load up that sexy-sized bus and bring them along. Going back, we have a lot of X-Files fans here, right? Does this still surprise you? Did you ever imagine, this would still be part of pop culture decades later, and it's going to be centuries later, everyone's still going to be talking X-Files?
I mean, if you would have told me that way back when, I would have been surprised, or I would have said there's no way that would last. But since it lasted 20 years, then I thought, oh, it's gonna keep going. So I'm no longer surprised. It just feels like people grew up with it, and then when they had kids, they introduced a lot of people today who introduced their kids to the X-Files, which I don't know how wise that is, but they did it. And there's some people that watch Californication with their kids, and I also question the wisdom of that. But I think honestly, I think X-Files is something that's kind of fun to pass on from generation to generation. Just as I just saw George Takei, Sulu, and I grew up with Star Trek, so I still sometimes watch, the reruns of the original Star Trek. So I imagine that kind of nonsense is going on with the X-Files as well.
You just spoke about some things you grew up watching. What's something like you've been, maybe in the last couple of years, maybe a film or show you've been indulging in and really enjoying lately?
Well, I watched the Great British Bake Off. Although I can't say I could watch it in reruns. It doesn't really bear repeat viewings. What have I just watched Task on HBO.
You got Task mega fan over there. I see him
I was able to interview Tom Pelfrey and meet Tom on Fail Better, the podcast that I do. And there you go. The podcast folks, they're quieter. But Tom is amazing in Task, and it was really a pleasure to interview him as well.
Well, since I'm sitting here, you mentioned your podcast, which I really enjoy personally myself, and it's a really great one. You know, what typically maybe you can give someone like me about having these conversations with such amazing people that have interesting, you know, backstories and what they have created also over time.
I don't give any tips. I think that's one of the problems with the world we live in. It's like, I'm not an expert. I'm just talking to people about how maybe they navigated failure and just the idea of failure, period. Because in many ways, failure can often be the best thing that ever happens to somebody. So that usually comes across in the interview, is that, oh, what I thought was the worst thing to happen to me was actually the best thing.
No, that's fantastic. And it's a fabulous podcast, and so I highly recommend everyone check it out. I want to know, like, what's one lesson from those early TV set, you know, days that still shapes how you approach your work today?
Early lessons from?
Yeah, your early time on television.
You know, I was just, Anthony Hopkins has a autobiography or memoir out, it's coming out right now, and I was reading little excerpts from it, and he said how he just memorizes the words really, really deeply. The words. And when you're working in television, especially back then when we were doing 25 episodes a year and trying to shoot a whole show in 8 days, there was a lot of words, and it really, I was kind of drowning in the words until I figured out, yes, it's in the words, it's in the words, it's in the words. And so I always go back to that. I like to know my stuff backwards and forwards. I like to commit it to deep memory and then speak it as if I'm speaking it for the first time. So I go back to just preparation. You have to prepare when you're shooting that much of the show every day. And I love preparing. You know, I love doing the homework and then showing up and feeling free.
Well, when it came to, you know, the X-Files legacy, what do you think really gave the show a timeless edge and that still resonates today and people are rewatching it for the 100th time or just watching it for the first time and just getting addicted to it?
Yeah, I think there's really that sense of extreme possibilities. There's the sense of wonder. There's the sense of more being out there than we understand, or all this kind of, you know, I always thought it was almost like a hopefulness, even if there was a lot of scary shit and, you know, it was a thriller in many aspects, but there was just that hope that there was more to the world than meets the eye. And I think that will always be, there'll always be a place for that kind of a show, for that kind of a sense.
Have your own beliefs about the unexplained changed since diving into that world?
Have I what?
Has your own beliefs about the unexplained changed since diving into that world of the X-Files?
No, I'm really dense. I'm very thick-headed. It's hard to influence me in any way. I think I know what I know, and it's hard for me to learn anything new.
When they said they wanted to do, you know, a feature film of X-Files, when you got that news, were you surprised that they wanted to kind of go into the big screens, from the small screens to the big screen for X-Files?
Yeah, it was a different time. You know, that was a different time. So yeah, it was surprising. But you know, it was in the works for probably since we started doing the 4th year, and we shot it between the 4th and the 5th year, I think. So it just became a very odd year for me, because it was, I think we must have done like 25 episodes, and then we shot the movie, and then we did another 24 episodes or something. It was just probably 2 straight years of shooting Fox Mulder without a break. It was very odd, kind of 2 years.
We have one question here from Lucas. Is Lucas close by?
We just have one question?
We have one question right here. He wants to know, what's your favorite behind-the-scenes story from filming X-Files?
That I've heard or that I participated in? My favorite behind-the-scenes story. You know what, Lucas, it was quite a while ago. It's hard to remember. I should have prepared. Because this is a question I knew I was going to get asked, right? I'm going to come back to you after the next question as I think about it. This might be it. This is my favorite behind-the-scenes story where where I get asked a question like that and I totally blank out and I disappoint everyone in the audience because they want to hear about the time when I gave Mitch Pileggi a wedgie or something like that. Which never happened, but it rhymes, so I think it should have happened. And the next time you see Mitch Pileggi, I think you should give him a wedgie.
Going back to the X-File films, what type of conversations did you have with Chris Carter about grounding the different tones? Because it felt like there was something different when it came to.
Well, the show had a lot of different tones. So there was every week there were tonal shifts. It could go from being a thriller to being a straight-up horror show to being a comedy to being somewhat of a love story or a relationship show. So there was always these tonal shifts that we had to navigate with whatever director was directing that episode. Whether it was like the Darren Morgan episodes, which were more comedic, the Morgan and Wong episodes were more horror, or Chris, which was kind of the conspiracy, the ongoing kind of mythology stuff. So it was always a challenge, but that was the fun part of the show for an actor, just to be able to exist in these different kind of scenarios and tones.
And there's obviously no X-Files without Gillian Anderson. Was that immediately like lightning in a bottle, teaming all up together? What was something about that partnership that fans may not know?
What don't they know? I think, Gillian and I get a lot of credit for that relationship, but I think what people don't really acknowledge is how much care the writers put into sustaining that kind of platonic relationship for so many years. It's ridiculous and difficult when you think back on it. It's like how, I don't watch Grey's Anatomy, but I imagine everybody is kind of having sex on that show. Am I right? I don't know. Right, so, a soap opera, that's what you do. And we're among, we're a sci-fi show, we're a realistic show, but we're also kind of a soap opera. And for the writers to be able to maintain that kind of tension and without it making no sense was kind of a real balancing act and a testament to Chris Carter and others to write that kind of, the Shakespearean sense marriage of true minds, that these were best friends and will they, won't they, and to keep people interested in that for so long. I think, Gillian and I can take credit for it, but I think it's better if we just nod to the writers who really kind of kept that balancing act happening.
We have one question here, no name on this one, but they are asking, how much did you enjoy the experience of directing an episode of The X-Files?
Well, the first episode that I directed was the first time I'd ever directed anything, so I was terrified and just eyes wide open and trying to learn as much as I could. But we had such a great crew and such a great machine that was going to make sure that I didn't fail, that I felt very protected going into that. So I think what some people don't know is that I had written this episode called The Unnatural for Darren McGavin, Kolchak, the Night Stalker actor, who Kolchak was an inspiration for Chris Carter in creating the X-Files. Because he looked at TV and he said, there's no scary show like this out there right now. So Darren had been established as a character on the show, as kind of a pre-Mulder. And I had written this part for Darren because knowing I was going to direct, I thought I should be light in the episode so that I could concentrate on directing, and I would just exist in maybe 3 or 4 scenes as my character Mulder. And then we shot one day with Darren McGavin, the first day I ever shot as a director, and the next day he was ill, and he couldn't come back to work, and then he couldn't come back to work at all, and sadly Darren passed away shortly after that. So I don't know why I'm telling you this sad behind-the-scenes story, but my first day of as a director I was lucky enough to have Darren McGavin on set, and that was footage that has never aired because Darren couldn't come back, and then we cast Emmet Walsh to replace him. So that's who the character is in the episode. But Darren was a wonderful actor and a great. Got to work with him earlier when his character was established, and we miss him. And so that's a sadder behind-the-scenes story of what had happened. But then, yeah, that was my first directing day.
Is that what the directing bug happened for you?
No, I've been wanting to direct for a while, but I did love writing and directing on the X-Files. I loved writing for the X-Files. It was such a great setup. It's such great characters. And the voices, those established voices of Mulder and Scully and Skinner, and all those great characters. It was a pleasure to kind of plug into that and try to write your own story.
A question here from Tori. Is Tori here?
Tori?
Tori's back there. She's standing right
way back there.
She wants to know, do you have a favorite line or story arc?
My favorite mime?
Line.
I love mimes. My favorite line?
Line or story arc?
I'll tell you what's not my favorite line are these ones that I have to sign that are really super long. So my favorite line is not, nobody down here but the FBI's most unwanted. Not my favorite line. Truth is out there, not sure I ever said that. Trust no one is nice, short, trust no one. Especially number one, trust number one. My favorite line. Sorry. I mean, I don't remember that many. What's yours? Yell it out. But I heard Scully, it's me. You know, it's like, as a writer, I'm like, okay, well, it's like, Scully, it's me. I mean, I guess it does the job, doesn't it? Not very poetic. Anybody else, favorite lines that are short, or maybe long, just memorized? Did you hear any of them?
No, but we'll take them. Whatever they said. Great lines. I know it's hard to take
in this mixed crowd of ages, we won't go into Californication very long.
Before we do jump over there, I want to ask, if you were writing or directing an X-Files film today, what kind of story would you want to tell in our modern world?
Well, rather than give that away, why don't we just say that we talk about this all the time, so maybe it'll happen.
So you're up to turn into that world, for sure.
Of course, yeah.
There you go, from the man himself. We want to see him back from our X-Files, right? Moving on to Californication. Are we got fans of that? Yeah. Playing Hank Moody lets you explore like a very human side of creativity and so much more. What initially drew you to him?
I've been looking to do comedy. After coming off the X-Files, I wanted to do more comedies because I've been trying to turn the X-Files into a comedy for the longest time, unsuccessfully. And although we had our funny episodes, but I was looking around. I grew up watching 70s comedies, Shampoo, movies like this, and there was not much comedy being done like that in feature films at the time. And then the script that Tom Kapanos wrote came my way called Californication, and I thought, oh, that's the kind of comedy that I want to do.
The show balanced a lot of humor and heartbreak as well, really well. Like, what was that tone tough to maintain week after week?
That was the fun of it. That was the creative enterprise, was maintaining that tone. That's the whole ball game right there. That's the great part. So for me as an actor, I like stretching those ways. I like bringing the drama into the comedy and the comedy into the drama. So that's all good for me. It's not easy, but that's what we were always thinking about.
In today, 2025, what would Hank Moody be doing?
He'd be speaking to these...
Writing, podcasting?
What would he be doing? Jeez. Hard to say. He'd be pretty fucking aghast at the world around him.
You've played so many layered roles. I want to know which character challenged your sense of identity most, and which one taught you something unexpected?
Well, again, I think we've established that I don't learn anything, ever. So I don't know that I've learned stuff. I think, I don't know, as I move along, I realize that bits of me get changed or pieces of me get influenced by the work that I do, but I'm not really aware of it in the time, you know? I don't know how many people watched Aquarius, but I really enjoyed taking a guy who was basically born in the teens of the 20th century. Is that about right? Yeah, because he's in his 40s, in the 60s. 20s maybe he's born. And taking him through the 60s, you know, and it really made me readdress kind of that whole cultural revolution that we went through in the 60s, and imagining a guy born into one world and then having to change, coming into another. And then I realized that all the characters that I'm attracted to are kind of people that have to adapt to a world that's changing around them. I'm attracted to that as a storyteller, but also as an actor. So yeah, I guess I learned that about myself.
In Californication, there's a lot of, grounded kind of comedy. What does great comedy say about being human to you?
What does great comedy say about being human? Well, I mean, I think your reaction to the world around is either to laugh or to cry, usually. So I prefer to try to laugh, and I think that, slipping on a banana peel will always be funny. And the more we realize, we think we're these ethereal beings full of reason and brilliance, and then we fall flat on our asses. And that to me is funny. It also makes us all in a community together. And it's a little like what I talk about in Fail Better, which is we all fail, we all fall on our asses, and we can laugh at it and get up.
You're also, please applaud. You've written a lot over the years. You've done so much.
Sounds like you're saying I've written too much.
No, not enough ever.
maybe you should stop writing.
But is there a certain theme that keeps pulling you back as a storyteller, that keeps motivating you to keep writing?
Well, again, I think that's something that maybe you could figure out if you were doing the reading of the books. It's not something that I think about, but like if I were to take a moment and to think about what I'm drawn to, is pretty much what I just said, is that I'm drawn to loss and failure and heartbreak, but in finding the laughter through that, and finding community through that, and finding brotherhood and sisterhood through that, and in kind of fighting against hypocrisy and arrogance for the losers, the people who don't always win, this kind of stuff. So I think I come to that from parents who kind of instilled that in me. My mother hated rich people with a passion, so it was kind of like, like fuck those people. And so that's where I'm at. Vote for me.
Before we wind things down, I want to know what first inspired your love of songwriting, and how did that evolve into full-blown albums?
Well, I grew up always loving music, but never really playing an instrument. And then I started playing guitar about 15 years ago, and just realized, even though I didn't have a natural great singing voice by any stretch of the imagination, I could hear melodies, and I came up with melodies and lyrics to chord progressions. So I was super surprised at this. But all my influences are from the 60s and 70s. But I wasn't like a musician that could read music or kind of, I couldn't rip people off because I didn't know how to do it. So if I'm ripping people off, it's all unconscious. It's all coming through just this very young lover of music place, which I really enjoy being in that moment because, you know, at some point in your life, you're an actor, that becomes your job, becomes your business, and you lose track of that young person that really fell in love with acting. But falling in love with music as a creator of music, again, made me fall in love with all creative endeavors like a kid again. So I guess my influences are just, you know, the music that I grew up with. Beatles, Stones, Motown, Sly and the Family Stone, Tom Petty, Steely Dan, bands like this that I grew up with from, you know, 8 to 20. I wouldn't know how to rip them off, but I'm sure it comes out unconsciously in some way.
Some great experience, inspiration right there, some great artists and bands. Finally, I want to end on this note. After all these years, acting, writing, and performing, what does creative success mean to you now?
I think it's really a criteria that I have when I look at something or hear something or read something that I'm involved in or that I've done. And I know when it got more than halfway there, or I know when it's good in my estimation of it. That's the best feeling. When, okay, I executed this in a way that wasn't humiliating, you know, or was beautiful in some way. And then that's my own personal stance towards it. And then the next part is like, if other people enjoy it, and if other people continue to enjoy it. And I always say, even if something comes out that doesn't get a lot of attention, or doesn't make a ton of money, or doesn't get, you know, a lot of, the algorithm doesn't pick it up, or whatever the fuck that is. And, I know it'll wait, sorry. I know. You can blame me. Tell your dad that guy was cursing the whole time. And he didn't tell me a story. Fuck that guy. I always say art is patient. And if I do something that I know in my heart was executed in a way that was authentic, and I see its worth, and I'm moved by it, even if it doesn't do well in the moment, I know that it'll stay there. It's waiting there. It's a book on the shelf. It's something on Hulu or, you know, whatever. It's buried somewhere, but somebody's going to find it if it's worthwhile. So I know that.
Well, yeah, please applaud that as we wrap up this panel. I want to thank all of y'all for coming here and seeing Mr. Duchovny. I want to thank the man himself. Please let's hear it one more time for David Duchovny.